Good. Good evening, and thank you for joining us for our Kol Nidre service tonight. So pleased to have so many of you with us in this beautiful surrounding. Before our service begins, we do have some words of welcome from Steve Wellens, a member of our board.
Good evening and good Yontif. My name is Stephen Wellens, and I'm a new board member at Vail. It's a great honor to be able to speak to you tonight from the Bema, formerly known as the Ford Amphitheater. Sharon Kusher asked me to speak this evening as a new board member and share my personal journey from Fort Lauderdale, Florida to the Bema at Vail. I've never publicly shared a lot of these thoughts before, so I hope you appreciate why I thought tonight was the right night to share them with you. I've always believed that significant events in a person's life often defines who they are. Sometimes these life events can unexpectedly bring enormous clarity and focus on what is important and even expected of you by your family and your community. Tonight, I'd like to focus on the last part of that sentence. What is expected of you of your community, but more importantly, your Jewish community. My Jewish life began July 22nd, many years ago. That day began like most days in Vail, with a morning hike up a mountain, but this had a small twist. On this day, it was 5:30 a.m., and the hike we were about to climb was Masada. Like many of you tonight, completing your Jewish education and becoming a bar or bar mitzvah was a long and arduous process. I was fortunate enough to be able to travel to Israel with 5 children for our rite of passage, our bar and bat mitzvah. We took turns leading the service, giving speeches, chanting our Haftarah, reading our Torah portions, while our friends and family silently prayed that we would finish before the temperature reached 118 degrees. Again, this was July. I could not have been more inspired listening to each bar and bar mitzvah student read their Torah portion and watch the smiles on the faces of their families attending the service. When my turn came, I could tell the parents of the students were quite amused to see a 32-year-old grown man standing amongst their children, trying my best to do my own portion without making a mistake. See, this Jewish thing was very new to me. I was born to a Roman Catholic mother who grew up in Havana, but was forced to leave her country in 1959 at the age of 17. Religion was never a big part of my mother's life growing up, and it's non-existent today. My father, on the other hand, grew up in a typical 1940s, 1950s conservative Jewish home where my Jewish grandmother kept a kosher home to the day she passed. By the time my father met my mother at the age of 21, religion had long ago faded from his life. As you can imagine, growing up in a home where neither parent was particularly religious was not a great recipe for a proper Jewish upbringing. I met my wife Lori in 1993, and she immediately insisted we join a temple together and start attending Friday night Shabbat services on a regular basis. I was already a member of the only Jewish country club in Miami, so I thought attending Jewish Shabbat services would not be all that different than having lunch after golf. Boy, was I in for a surprise. Lori was also raised by a Roman Catholic mother whose family immigrated from Sicily and converted to Judaism 13 years ago. Lori's father was from New York, and he was raised in a very traditional conservative Jewish home, just like my father. It's quite amazing that we both had Roman Catholic mothers and fathers from very traditional Jewish homes, yet our upbringing couldn't have been more different. Our religious experiences were very much different. Lori was raised like most Jewish children in Fort Lauderdale. She attended early childhood Jewish education programs, attended Hebrew school until her bat mitzvah, and remained a member of the same synagogue for more than 30 years. This Jewish thing was becoming quite an eye-opening experience for me. After attending services most Friday nights for about a year or two, the rabbi asked if we would want to start a golf tournament to help raise funds for the Jewish Day School. Naturally, we agreed, as I knew a lot about golf, and I was a member of the only Jewish country club in Miami that would be thrilled to host the event. From there, our formal Jewish responsibilities and temple responsibilities really took off. A few weeks later, the rabbi asked if we'd be interested in joining a few committees, figuring he had a big fish they just needed to land. Within a year, my wife joined the temple board and later the executive board. She held many leadership positions and served for more than 10 years. About the same time, I was approached by the past president of the temple to join the board of Jewish Family Service of Broward County. Within 2 years, I was elected the youngest president of JFS and served on that board for many years. I was later asked to join the temple board and then the executive board, holding several leadership positions for most of the next 10 years. We both enjoyed our time that we spent on the temple board, and we grew much closer to our religious roots because of it. It always amazed me how this large temple in Fort Lauderdale immediately accepted me as part of the family. As time went on, I grew to appreciate how important the synagogue was for me in defining my Jewish life. Jews, because of our history, our epic struggles, and our deep commitment to faith, have made the world a better place for everyone. We should always celebrate where we came from and what we've accomplished together. As a Jewish community, we have a deep responsibility to continuously reach for the stars, offer tzedakah to those in need, and most importantly, build a solid foundation to guide our children to achieve the things that we may not have even thought about yet. I may never have really understood the importance of the synagogue in building a Jewish community, if not for that special day on top of Masada, July 22nd, 1998. That experience dramatically shaped the next 23 years of my life. Now that we're living here full time, it was only natural that we once again connected with our Jewish faith and our Jewish community. Ever since my bar mitzvah at the age of 32, I've held a tremendous belief in the importance of Jewish education and perpetuating our faith, our community, and our future. As we started to spend more time here in the Vail Valley, we quickly realized that B'nai Vail offered this unique opportunity and allowed us to rediscover our purpose in our new Jewish community. From the rabbi and Janet, to the cantor Michelle and her husband Seth, to Jeannie, to the board of directors, and the many members of B'nai Vail we have met, you should be so proud of what we have created at B'nai Vail over the last 4 decades. B'nai Vail has a very rich heritage that welcomed us with open arms and love. We could not be more thrilled with the B'nai Vail experience and sincerely hope that many of you also feel the warmth we have found here. This is our synagogue, our collective synagogue. This is our collective Jewish community. And it's our responsibility as a community to define who we are and where we want B'nai Vail to go for the next 50 years. I sincerely hope that you join and help us define that future. Thank you for welcoming Lori and I to this wonderful community and to B'nai Vail. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was beautifully said, but the best part was you said, "This is our synagogue." I'd like to think so, and at least it is for Yom Kippur and for all of you who are joining with us. Our God and God of our fathers and mothers, we gather together on this Kol Nidre evening as Jews to commemorate one of the most solemn days of the year. Remembering the long and proud history of our people, its tragedies, its triumphs, uniting with fellow Jews around the world, we feel a sense of peoplehood. So beginning this evening, help us, O Lord, that we may learn to be at peace with our families, our community, our world, and of course with ourselves. You, the God of peace. We're going to begin. We invite up Bernie and Helene Grablowski, and they're going to offer first a blessing before the candle lighting and the lighting of the candles. And we thank you so much for sponsoring our little shul here this evening.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech ha'olam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Yom HaKippurim.
Source of all blessing, eternal our God, you fill our universe with majestic might, giving us life, upholding the life within us, and bringing us to this very special time. We join with the cantor, Shechianu.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech ha'olam, shehechianu v'kiloinu v'higioinu lozmoin chayzeh.
Eternal God, we're about to begin the Kol Nidre service. We've come together. This year, for many of us, has been a difficult year. Each of us comes to worship tonight with special dreams and hopes. Each of us has personal worries and concerns. Each of us has a prayer no one else can utter. And so we pray, if we are weary, give us strength. If we are discouraged, give us hope. If we have forgotten how to pray, remind us. If we have been careless of time, forgive us. With the glowing spirit of this Kol Nidre night, warm us in the light of these candles as we begin a new year.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So we turn in our prayer books to page 2 at the top of the page. It's like an introduction to the Kol Nidre prayers itself. It's called All Vows. It's going to be read by Diane Lindholm and Sarah Wiley.
All vows, promises, and commitments made in your presence, may we be given the strength to keep them.
Our vows to ourselves, commitments to self-discipline, may we take our own lives seriously enough to heed them, honoring our resolves in the way we eat and drink, the way we work and rest, the way we regulate our lives.
Commitments made to loved ones and friends, pledges made to worthwhile causes. Help us to become as compassionate and generous as we sought to be at those noble moments.
The promises we made to worship and study, we meant them when we made them, but distractions were many and our wills were weak. This time, may we be strong enough, may our better selves prevail.
Promises made by young people inspired in a moment, but forgotten over time. May their idealism and commitment to justice hold fast, making our world a better place for all.
Promises made in marriage, may they endure through dark days. Through fatigue and illness, may our love prove strong and our faith firm.
Oh God, we meant the promises we made to you, to each other, and to ourselves, just as we mean the vows we make silently tonight. Give us strength and integrity, fidelity, and vision to be the people we have sworn to be.
All worthy vows and commitments we make from this Yom Kippur to the next, may we be faithful enough and firm enough to keep them.
Thank you. The bottom of the page, for all these failures of judgment and will, God of forgiveness, forgive us, pardon us, and lead us to atonement as we join with the cantor, Vail. Thank you.
ועל כולם אלוה הסליחות, סלח לנו מחלנו
As we turn in our prayer books to page 3 at the top of the page, please rise for the chanting of Kol Nidre as we invite Mark and Debbie Levy. Steve and Lori Wellens will be holding the Torah, and we open the ark. Okay. What's next? I'll go back to it. Who's got this one? Oh no, you take that one. That's the heavy one. That's good. Is it okay? Okay, let's get the black one. We'll go back to Kaufman. Okay, come stand right here. Right in the middle. Right here in the middle. Good. It sounded even better here than I've ever heard it. Thank you. That was beautiful. Thank you. We're now going to return the Torahs to the ark. I'll help you. I'll take this one. Thank you. Thank you. You may be seated. We return to our prayer books. The bottom of page 3, Lynn and Andy Kaufman are going to read for us Eternal God as the new year begins.
Eternal God, as the new year begins, we have come together to pray as a congregation, yet each of us is solitary in your presence.
Each of us comes before you with special hopes and dreams. Each of us has personal worries and concerns. Each of us has a prayer no one else can utter. Each of us brings a praise no one else can offer. Each of us feels a joy no one can share. Each of us has regrets which others cannot know.
And so we pray, if we are weary, give us strength. If we are discouraged, give us hope. If we have forgotten how to pray, remind us. If we have been careless of time, forgive us.
If our hearts have been chilled by indifference, warm them with your mercy and inspire us with the glowing spirit of this holy time.
Thank you. Turn in our prayer books to page 4. At the top of the page, we rise for the chanting of our call to worship. We join with the cantor in the Baruch Hu. You may be seated as we join together, the middle of the page, with the cantor in Shema.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Vaed.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
At the top of page 6, we have a wonderful reading that talks about family, but even more so, it reminds us to pay attention to those little things in life, read by Paul Struby.
During World War II, London parents shipped as many children as possible into the countryside where they would be physically safe from the air bombardments. Years later, after the war, studies showed that children who had remained in London with their parents suffered less physically and emotionally than did the children who were sent out to the countryside. The true security was found to be family unity, not just physical safety. Judaism in America will not be defeated by great acts of betrayal. It will not be undermined by small acts of negligence and hate. Judaism will not be saved by any headline-making, breathtaking deeds of valor. It will be saved by great loyalty to little mitzvot. Leo Beck, the great 20th century rabbi, said, "Piety, especially Jewish piety, respects the little man or woman, the little things, the little tasks, the little duties. Through the little things, religion meets the greatness that lies ahead. Let us pay attention to the little things in life."
Thank you. In the middle of page 6, we have Shirat HaYam, the Song of the Sea. It's a poem that appears in the book of Exodus and was sung by the Israelites after crossing the Red Sea safely. So we join with the cantor in the middle of page 6.
Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nehedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot osef melech, malchutecha ra'u banecha, bokei hayom lifnei Moshe, ze'ili anu v'yomeru, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed.
The prayer Hashkivenu envisions God as our guide, a guide and shelter during the night ahead, and praises God for watching over us, delivering us, and being merciful. Page 7 at the top of the page as we join together.
Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leShalom, Ehamitenu Malkeinu lechaim. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leShalom, Ehamitenu lechaim. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leShalom, Ehamitenu Malkeinu lechaim. Ushmor tzeitzei
Many of the photographs that you find in our prayer book are from Roman Vishniak. He took them in 1935, mostly in Poland, and you can see the picture in the middle of page 7. In order to capture some of these photos, this one is called the knife sharpener, the scissors and knife sharpener, that he wore a camera in his hat. And then when he would lift his arm, he would be able to take these amazing pictures that we now have of a time long forgotten. Well, the bottom of page 7, we invite up Scott Camber, and he's going to read for us, Keep Hold.
Keep hold of your hands when you are about to do an unkind act. Keep hold of your tongue when you are just ready to speak harshly. Keep hold of your heart when you are angry or others are angry with you. Keep hold of truth, for it will serve you well and do you good throughout your life. Keep hold of character, for it is and ever will be your best wealth.
Thank you. As we turn to page 8 and rise, we'll continue now with the Reader's Kaddish.
Yitkadash Shmei Rabbah Ve'alma divrach chirutei Ve'yamlich malchutei B'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei kol beit Yisrael Bagala uvizemon kariv veimeru amen Yehi shemei Rabba mevarach le'alam u'lalmei alamaya Yitbarach, v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar, v'yitroman, v'yitnaseh, v'yitadal, shemei tekudsha, brichu, le'ela, u'le'ela, min kol birhata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata tamirun ve'alma v'imru amen.
The simple words of Adonai Svatai, taken from Psalm 51. God, open my lips that my mouth may declare your glory. You see, when we begin praying, we ask God to allow us a moment to pause, and that is this moment now, to think and to speak about the words we need to say. So take a moment and allow God's voice to be heard. Live this moment of silence. Let it carry us through the rest of the year. As we join with the cantor, the bottom of page 8, Adonai Svatai.
Sva
continue silently in our prayer books through page 17. You may be seated when you've completed the Amida. Middle of page 17 as we continue with our prayer for peace and join together. Shalom Rav.
Shalom Rav, Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav, Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Ki atahu melech adon, lecha hashalom. Ki atahu melech adon, lecha hashalom. Shalom Rav, Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav, Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. V'tov beinecha levarech et amcha Yisrael b'chol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rav, Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav, Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav,
We have a Jewish fox on the grass. It's a good sign. We could make something up about that, but I wouldn't even try to.
Rabbi Newman, what Rav in Hebrew is rabbi, and it's also
Teacher,
teacher, and
one who sees the fox.
it is an animal, isn't it, though? Shaul is fox.
As long as we're going off track.
I mean, you have to when there's a fox running
It would
through
be
your Kol Nidre
the
service.
fox we saw it at Passover Seder, because in Psachim in the Talmud, it talks about a fox going from village to village to village carrying chametz. So they have a whole rule about what happens if you see a fox at Passover. We'll have to make something up for Yom Kippur. I'm not sure what we'll do for this. But it's pretty, where is it, up there? Right on the grass, okay. Well, B'Sefer Chaim, in your goodness, author of life, bless us all your people. We join with the cantor at the bottom of the page.
בספר חיים ברכה ושלום ופרסה טובה ניזכר וניכתב לפניך
Well, Kol Nidre evening reminds us that God has pointed us in a direction of good and right living, and it's a compass, and it's a star to follow us by day. In the book of Micah, God asks of us to do justice, treating each other with kindness and compassion. We're asked to be merciful, forgiving others, releasing especially those old grudges. We're asked to walk humbly without pride and self-importance, but with humility and grace and worthy of our people. Well, it's an old Kol Nidre story. When Seymour passed away, God greeted him at the pearly gates, and God asked him, "Are you hungry, Seymour?" "I could eat," Seymour replied. So God opened a can of tuna, reached for a hunk of rye bread, and then they shared it together. While eating this humble meal, Seymour kind of glanced down at those unfortunate people that didn't make it up to heaven. But Seymour saw the inhabitants, and they were devouring huge steaks and pheasants and pastries and fine wines. Curious, but deeply trusting, Seymour just remained quiet. Well, the next day, God invited Seymour for another meal, and again, it was canned tuna and a hunk of rye bread. So once again, he's looking down at that other place, and Seymour sees the inhabitants enjoying caviar, champagne, strawberries, and chocolate. Still, Seymour said nothing. So the following day, the mealtime arrives. God opened a can of tuna. And even before God could tear off that piece of rye bread, Seymour couldn't contain himself any longer. Meekly, he said, "God, I'm really grateful to be up here with you in heaven as a reward for the pious, the full Jewish life that I led. But here in heaven, all I get is canned tuna and a hunk of rye bread. And the other place down there, they eat like emperors and kings. So forgive me, oh God, I just don't understand." Well, God sighed. "Let's be honest, Seymour. For just two people, does it pay to cook?" Well, sometimes it's lonely being the one who does the right thing even when no one is looking. Sometimes it's lonely to make the right choice, but even when there's no reward, even when we have to stand alone, and do justice, be merciful, and walk humbly with our God. Well, the great Hasidic Rebbe Zusya, he once said that when I was young, I thought I could change the world. As he grew older, he thought, well, he could change his country, or maybe just his community. Still older, he thought, I think I can change my family. But finally, in his old age, he realized there's only one person I could change. That's myself. On Kol Nidre night, the question is, how do we change ourselves? Even though we might get that tuna fish and a hunk of rye bread for living the righteous life, in this new year, how can we become a better person, the kind of person that God meant us to be? So as we sit here this evening, we're not looking forward to enjoy after services a sweet hamantaschen or a crispy latke. This is not one of those happy, easy holidays. Everything about Yom Kippur conspires us to, it forces us to face truths that we'd rather neglect and really ignore. We spend time in this magnificent house of worship, away from the distractions of the workplace, the home. We'll spend hours here so that there's really time to think. We need time to meditate, to pray, and even to wonder. So tomorrow night, as we sound the shofar, in ancient times, it was that signal of an emergency. For us, the sound of the shofar really is a call to attention. Together, we read the words in our prayer book, Rosh Hashanah Yikatevu, Uv Yom Tzom Kippur Yichatemu. On Rosh Hashanah, the decree is written, and on Yom Kippur, it is sealed. Who will live and who shall die? Who will achieve the measure of their time? And who will die before his time? Now, in the old days when that prayer was read, the congregation trembled with fear before God, the judge of all life. I mean, you think about it, who shall live and who shall die? It's an awesome statement about the passing of time, reminding us of how fragile and fleeting life really is. That's why this time of reflection is so special. And what it is that makes Kol Nidre so meaningful, well, perhaps it's the melody that we hear once a year. But it's the words, and they're not even in Hebrew, they're in Aramaic. They're just plain, they're simple, and it's an annulment of vows. Now, at one point in our history, the rabbis got together and they wanted to change some of those words, but they couldn't because the cantors protested. But beyond the words and the tune, the Kol Nidre is so much more. Rosh Hashanah is focused on the year that lies ahead. But Kol Nidre brings together the past, the present, and the future. Its words seek to annul not just our vows and our deeds of the past year, but of the coming year as well, from last Yom Kippur until this Yom Kippur. The Yom Kippurim Zeh, from this Yom Kippur ad Yom Kippur haba'a aleinu l'tova, until that which is to come, let it be for good. Where our Kol Nidre prayer tries to respond to the question, how do we cope with all the tsuris that's going on in the world, and what does Judaism teach us that can help us respond to the pain and the suffering that's all around us? Well, 2,000 years ago, the great Jewish sage Hillel, the greatest rabbi of his day, taught, Uvmakom she'ein anashim, in a place where no one is human, hish tadel liot ish, one should strive to be human. This, I think, should be the teaching of the Jewish year. As we struggle to respond to really a daily onslaught of tragic news, in a place where no one is human, one should strive to be human. But that philosophy can be challenging. Many years ago, there was a chassid who was traveling. He traveled from shtetl to shtetl to shtetl. He was selling holy books. And on one occasion, he came to a wealthy banker, a landowner, and he asked if he could purchase one of his Torah teachings. Well, the banker agreed. Not only did he purchase the holy book, but he paid for it with a 100-ruble note. Then he began to chat with the chassid and offered him a cigar, taking one for himself. The chassid noticed that the banker proceeded to rip a page from the book that he had just bought. Holding this crumbled holy page, he put in the open flame of the stove, and he used it to light his cigar. Well, the chassid didn't say a word, but he simply drew out from his pocket the 100 ruble note that he had just received, held it over the stove, and he lit his cigar. What a way to teach a lesson in values. How difficult it must have been to try to be human in a place where the other is not. Now, I remember when I was just a kid growing up in Cleveland, my family would tell me stories about the old days, and we've all heard so many stories from our parents and grandparents. But one that I forgot was one of my uncles. It was one Shabbos weekend, and he was staying at his grandfather's house. It was a Saturday afternoon when this big black Cadillac with darkened windows pulls up to his house on Shabbos yet. 3 big burly guys got out, and you could see that it was bulging from their coats. Under their coats, they had holsters. And then the back door of this Cadillac opened up. A famous Jewish Cleveland gangster got out. He walked up the stairs to the porch, took out that thick envelope, and bang, laid it down on the table next to his grandfather. He then said, in Yiddish no less, "Nem far de yeshiva kinder is mein mama's yahrzeit." Take this for the yeshiva kids, it's my mother's yahrzeit. With that, he turns around, walked down the stairs, disappeared into the Cadillac, and drove away. My uncle continued to recall this story as I sat there with my mouth wide open. My uncle said, "At first I was angry that a man would dare bring money to my Zaidi on Shabbos, and that a gangster would dare bring money to soothe his conscience, and that my grandfather would even take it." Well, my uncle explained he didn't know if he was angrier with the man or if he was angrier with his grandfather. So he kept the anger, the shame, even the embarrassment inside him for years and never told anyone about it. Years passed, and my uncle was now much older. The incident somehow came up in conversation when he was talking to his older grandfather now. And he said to him, "Zaidi, how is it that you could have done such a thing? How could you let him get away with such a thing? How could you let a gangster give you money for charity on Shabbos?" So Zaidi answers him, "Don't you understand what happened that day? Here was a man who lived a certain way of life. He lived in an ugly, criminal, wrong way, and then one day he happened to look at the calendar. He looked at the calendar and realized it was his mother's yahrzeit. He remembered the dreams that she had once for him, the dream that he would grow up to be a mensch, he would grow up to be a Jew. So for one brief moment, he wanted to live up to that dream. And for one brief minute, he wanted her memory to live within him. So he did what he did. It's not hypocrisy. That's a moment of truth. And whether it lasted or not doesn't matter. It was a sacred moment. You know, life is too short for us not to provide help and hospitality to those in need. And life is too short to not show dignity and respect to others. And life is especially too short for us to close ourselves off from the world. So tonight, each one of us is challenged by the prayer sung so beautifully by the cantor, the Kol Nidre. A prayer which says, promise that you'll try to love one another, that you're not going to wait until tomorrow to do what needs to be done today. Promise that there will be passion to your commitments, to your family, but especially in this coming year, to yourself. And promise that you won't let the feeling that we all have tonight leave us after we leave the High Holy Days. So promise if there's a person to change in this new year, it's going to be you. Because Kol Nidre tells us that we must realize why we are here on this earth. And may it be our prayer this Kol Nidre night that, well, neither an excess of humility nor a surplus of faith keep us from performing nobly our assignments in partnership with God. So on this Kol Nidre night, we're reminded of our past years as we look for tomorrow. And reminded that we are in partnership in God with all that we do. So Kol Nidre is here to remind us that if we break our fast tomorrow night, with a can of tuna and a hunk of rye bread. It's okay. It's okay because the life that you're living now is righteous. So we pray that may God bless us up in this coming year with health and happiness and look down upon us with favor and forgive us. May we reach deep within ourselves and especially not take for granted the blessings that are those which came before us, the blessings that are always within our reach. May we always strive to share those blessings with others. And tonight, may God grant us life. Amen. As we return to our prayer books on page 19, we'd like to invite up Bill and Jill Multek. They're going to open the ark for us. We all rise and join with the cantor. Ashamnu, we have trespassed, the opening words of our confession of sins, its origin from the high priest on Yom Kippur. You may be seated. The bottom of the page, for all these failures of judgment and will, God of forgiveness, forgive us, pardon us, and lead us to atonement. the top of page 20, Shema Kolenu is a wake-up call. As we join with the cantor, we pray that God hears our prayers and we shall be blessed. We join the top of page 20.
Shema Kolenu, Adonai Eloheinu, Chus v'rachem aleinu, v'rachem aleinu, Hashivenu, Adonai lecha, v'nashuva, Chadesh yameinu kekedem, Shema Kolenu, Adonai Eloheinu, Chus v'rachem aleinu, v'rachem aleinu, Al tashlichenu mi'ilfonecha, v'ruach kodshecha, al tikach mimenu, Shema kolenu, Adonai Eloheinu, Chus v'rachem aleinu, v'rachem aleinu, al tashlichenu leitikna, kichlot kochenu, al ta'azvenu, Shema kolenu, Adonai Eloheinu, Chus v'rachem aleinu, v'rachem aleinu, al ta'azvenu, Adonai Eloheinu, al tirchak mimenu, Shema kolenu, Adonai Eloheinu, Chus v'rachem aleinu, v'rachem aleinu.
This is the moment, this is the evening, the night where we are asking forgiveness of our friends, our family, those we have wronged. We ask them once, we ask them twice. If they're still not ready or yet to forgive us, we ask a third time, and we know that God will forgive us for what we have done. Page 20 at the bottom of the page as we join with the cantor. We are your people and you are our God. We are your children. You are our father, our mother. Hianu Amecha, we join together at the top of page 21.
Ki anu amecha ve'ata alheinu, anu ve'anecha ve'ata avinu, anu avadecha ve'ata Adonenu, anu ואתה נוצרנו, אנו פעולתך, ואתה יוצרנו, אנו רעייתך, ואתה דודנו, אנו סגולתך, ואתה קרובנו, אנו עמך, ואתה מלכנו, אנו מאמירך, ואתה מאמירנו.
One of the wonderful things that I've experienced in the rabbinate these past 40 years is reacquaintance and getting to know some of you that I've known here for the years that I've been here, others that I've known for 30 years and more. This one sets the record. We go back 50 years. I know I don't look that old, but we go back 50 years to Dallas, where we invite Steve and Jackie Waldman. Steve's father was my coach in Little League in Dallas growing up. So we're pleased to have you with us, joining in our service. They're going to read for us the middle of page 21.
The Maggid of Dubno, an 18th century rabbi, traveled from village to village, preaching that on the high holy days, one must pray with understanding and reverence, and not by rote. Here's a parable he told of a villager from a small shtetl who came to the big city for the first time.
Awakened in the middle of the night by loud beating of drums, he asked drowsily, "What is this all about?" He was told a fire had broken out and that the drum beating was the city's fire alarm. On his return home to his shtetl, he reported, "They have a wonderful system in the big city. When a fire breaks out, the people beat their drums, and before long, the fire burns out." All excited, the villagers ordered a supply of drums and distributed them to the population. When a fire broke out later, there was a deafening explosion of beating of drums, while the villagers waited expectantly for the flames to subside as homes burned to the ground. A sophisticated visitor passing through the shtetl, when told the reason for the ear-splitting drumbeat, smiled and said, "Do you think a fire can be put out by beating drums? They only sound an alarm for people to wake up and take measures to extinguish the fire."
This parable, said the Maggid of Dubno, applies to those of us who believe that beating the breast during our confessional prayers or listening to the blasts of the shofar will put out the fires of sin and evil that burn within us. But they are only an alarm, a warning to wake up and begin to search our souls so that next year we will be a better person. Gemar Chatima Tova.
Thank you. Thank you very much. On page 22 at the top of the page, Anne Don Graubert will read for us On This Night.
On this night of atonement, we pray, sustain us and strengthen us.
Keep us mindful of the meaning of the prayers we utter. Make us sensitive to the purposes and the fast we have begun.
Keep us hungry for truth and give us the will to seek it. Justice, and give us the courage to pursue it.
Keep us hungry for peace and give us the strength to work for it.
Keep us hungry for love and give us the understanding to earn it.
Keep us hungry for reconciliation and give us the wisdom to attain it.
Keep us hungry for your forgiveness and give the humility to ask for it.
On this night of atonement, O God, sustain us and strengthen us. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Well, the Birkat HaGomel expresses our gratitude for the miracle of healing and full restoration to one's health, to family and friends, and indeed full restoration to life itself. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam hagomel l'chayavim tovot shegimalani kol tov. May God, who has bestowed kindness upon us, continue to bestow every goodness upon each of us and restore our health. We know that there are those in our community who are in need of healing of body, mind, or spirit. Keep them in your minds, in your thoughts, in your prayers as we continue the bottom of page 22 with the cantor, Misha Berach. prayer for Avinu Malkeinu is one of the oldest and most moving prayers I think we have within our liturgy. It goes back to the time of Rabbi Akiva in 135 CE, where he took those two verses, Our Father, taken from the book of Isaiah, and Our King, also taken from the book of Isaiah, and then they incorporated all these verses together. We're going to turn in our prayer books to page 23 at the top of the page and rise. As we open the ark, Nina and Liz will open the ark for us. Page 23, we join with the cantor. Page 24 as we join together, Aleinu.
Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon ha'kol, la'tet gidula le'otzer bereshit, shelo asanu kilei haratzon, ve'lo samanu k'mishpechot ha'adama, shelo sam kelchenu kahem, ve'gor aleinu kechol hamonam, va'anachnu korim, umishtachavim umodim, lifnei melech, Malchei Hamlachim, Hakadosh Baruch Hu, V'nemar, V'haya Adonai, Lemelech al kol haaretz, Bayom hahu, Yeh Adonai echad, Ushemo,
We remain standing. The bottom of page 24, we invite up Jessica Tenner. She's going to read for us, Hold On to What Is Good. And I could only imagine what CJ would be saying.
Hold on to what is good, even if it's a handful of earth. Hold on to what you believe, even if it's a tree that stands by itself. Hold on to what you must do, even if it's a long way from here. Hold on to your life, even if it's easier to let go. Hold on to my hand, even if I've gone away from you.
Thank you. At this moment, in memory of our loved ones who are no longer with us, we join hands in love and remembrance because a link has been broken in the chain that bound us together. Its strong bonds of love and home hold us one to another. And though our loved ones are beyond our sight, we do not despair, for we'll always be comforted by their precious memories. The Mourner's Kaddish can be found in our prayer books, page 25. Those who wish may join with me as we say, Yitzgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, v'alma divrach hirutei v'amlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon u'v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, b'golav izman kariv im ramein. Yehei shmei rabba mevarach le'olam omeo maya. Yitzbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shemei dekudesha brichu. La'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Damiran bi'alma v'imramein. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imramein. Oseh shalom b'imramav. Huya aseh shalom. Leinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imramein. You may be seated. I hope when someone calls and says, so how were your holidays? And we say, I don't know, the best part was some fox was running around at the top. I know that was exciting, but this is also my Ashamnu moment, because I really have to thank, and I've not paid enough attention to those people that played such an important part in putting this all together and creating this beautiful sanctuary for us. And of course, Janet, who is up here the entire time, moving tourists, moving things, setting up this beautiful display down below for 9/11, which we'll be talking about again tomorrow. And so thank you for all that you did in getting people up and down, and no one fell down the stairs. David, thank you very much for that as well. So watch. And Cantor, it's beautiful. This is our 7th or 8th year doing this together, and it's really been wonderful to having you and Seth, who is up there always moving around and making sure everything is for you. So we appreciate all that he does as well. And for Jeannie's out there somewhere, she does the logistics. This doesn't just happen that you schlep 400 prayer books to another building and then set all this up. But together with Scott, I know that they put in a lot of work with Kathy. And then David, again, thank you for all this time in helping us. To recognize our musicians, on cello, Dr. Adam Riggs, back again year after year is wonderful. Thank you, it's beautiful. Violin, Karen Loffer, wonderful. I mean, it just enhances our service. And on piano, Kyle Jones. Thank you very much. It was just beautiful. And to Lauren and Bert Solomon, who each year say, let's bring music into our congregation. This streaming thing is a little new to all of us, but we had 1,000 hits for Rosh Hashanah or whatever you would call where you click on. And Patrick with putting all this together with the sound. And Jake I was going to bring him up here to have an aliyah, and he says, no, then the streaming is cut off. So he's down there somewhere doing all that for us. And if you see the police outside that were protecting us, just say thank you, because we're so grateful to have the Vail Police and the Sheriff's Department here with us tonight. The flowers didn't grow here. They were brought here, and we come all during the day, and to Karen Numeroff and Marcia came as well, to come and bring all these flowers, set this up so beautifully so it really turns this bima, largest bima I've ever been on, into a sanctuary, and it's just beautiful. And to Bernie and Helene Grablowski, when we said we're going to try to do something like this in a magnificent sanctuary like this, they were back in Virginia Beach and said, how can we help? So tonight, you made this happen for all of us, and our thanks to you. And then we think about Myrna. This machzor is dedicated to her memory, and we have the family you'll be coming up tomorrow. But for Myrna Sigmund, she was such an important part of all that we did, and she would have been right there in the front row, either giving me a thumbs up or thumbs down with the sermon, you never know. But she was always there and always for us. Services tomorrow morning, 9:30. Gates open at 8:30. No picnic tomorrow. We're not doing breakfast, brunches, but that also includes Yisker. The Yisker comes at the end of our service, I'm guessing around 11:15 or so. And then all the 850 names will be read in the evening when we go to our service in Edwards. I didn't mention last time, but we do have, after 40 years, we do have a cemetery, the Minturn Cemetery. And they're planting 24 trees, which are going to be gorgeous along the sides. And we finally have our own Jewish cemetery. So if you haven't visited in Minturn, it really is a beautiful site and just surrounded by the mountains. I have you don't normally do this at Kol Nidre, but there's some shout outs because we have so many people that are watching, that are streaming. When I was contacted by those on land and also at sea at Pearl Harbor, they said, we don't have a service to go to because of COVID. Can we join yours? So we have Pearl Harbor, Hickam Air Force Base, Kaneohe Marine Base, and Schofield Barracks out in Hawaii. So wherever I'm waving, we're glad to have you joining with us, and all the ships at sea that are able to tune in with us as well. We also have Seacrest, our most loyal people that join us. It's Seacrest in San Diego, where my mother-in-law gets together with all the others. So hello to all of you as well. And many people in Israel. I know this is probably morning by now, but I know that many people in Israel said they'd like to join us for our unique service that we offer. For more information and for those that contributed to help make this happen, we have flyers in the back for you to take a look at. And please, so Jeannie doesn't have to go around to all these seats picking up books, take your book, put it away, and we'll have it ready for you tomorrow morning. So again, Cantor, thank you. That was absolutely beautiful. It's really enhances our service beyond what any of us could imagine. And to all of you that accompany, it was beautiful. Well, we're not going to do the John Denver Adon Olam, but we will turn to page 20.
I could spring it on them, but I don't know if they know that.
Page 26 as we join together Adon Olam.
Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra Le'et Nasa V'chesto Kol Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Ve'acharei Kichlot HaKol Levado Yimloch Nora Ve'hu Haya Ve'hu Hoveh Ve'hu Yeh B'tifara Ve'hu Echad Ve'ein Sheni Lehamshilo Lehachmira V'li Reshit V'li Tachlit Ve'lo Haoz Ve'hamisra Ve'hu Eli Ve'chai Goali V'tzor Chavli Ve'ein Sarah
for controlling all of our sound. I'm glad you didn't cut me off, Cheyenne. Thank you for all the beautiful sound that you're able to produce in this magnificent building. And Stephen, for opening up the entire service. Thank you for sharing that very special story with us. Let's rise for a closing blessing. Our God and God of our fathers and mothers, as we have gathered here on Kol Nidre evening, as Jews to commemorate this solemn day of the year, remember the long and proud history of our people, because we trust in you that you have our ancestors. We turn to you in prayer in thought and deed. Beginning this evening, help us, O Lord, to learn to be at peace with our families, our community, and our world, and ourselves, O God of peace. Adonai ozli amo yitein, Adonai varechet amo v'shalom. May the Lord grant strength unto his people. Bless all of us with peace. Have a meaningful fast.